get finished with the book like this, and it's like, all right, now I'm going to publish it. Now, of course, the safest route is always to self-publish because there's no gatekeepers, and it really doesn't matter what you write. But okay, but then you take a book like Jurassichrist, and you're like, all right, who wants to put this out into the world? So
Hmm.
what was that process like? Did you kind of say, okay, well, I got to eliminate 90% of these publishers because they're going to not know what to do with it or not want it, and then who among these are going to be the ones to want it? So, did you already have a publisher in mind, or someone who was already interested, or did you kind of go hunting for a person that would be interested in Jurassichrist?
Well, I came into publishing kind of backwards. I started in that sort of I started in the small press arena, which is where I entered.
Mm-hmm.
I was never one of those like I'm gonna put together a manuscript and try to find agents and try to be a big writer. I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that now. I'd like to write something that I would be able to pitch to agents and find some representation and all that. But when I started, I hit the ground running with Eraserhead Press, which is one of the godfathers of Bizarro.
Mm-hmm.
I met the guys from various other micro presses. I've worked with Rooster Republic. I've worked with Bizarro Pulp Fiction and Bizarro Pulp Press, and just all these different publishers. Omnium Gatherum out in California, and I've always been sort of publisher agnostic. Like I like to work with a variety of different people. Um, so in this case, for Perpetual Motion Machine, I met Max and Lori several years ago, and they're just wonderful.
Yeah,
And Lori has done layout for several of my books on other presses.
me too.
So I knew her from doing that. She's messed around with my stuff before. And I've given her some challenges. Some of my stuff is very metafictional, and I do a lot of stuff with text.
Oh, you're
Um,
one of those guys.
yeah, oh yeah. If you get a chance, check out. I have a book called Boiled Americans.
Okay.
Uh, that is a bunch of like it's everything from shape poetry to autobiography to it's all about gun violence and living in America in sort of the age of the gun, based on a bunch of shootings that happened in Chicago a few years ago. But that's all kinds of weird text stuff. My horror novel, actually, The Indifference of Heaven, which Omnium Gatherum put out a couple of years ago, that too deals with like all these weird textual things. So I knew that Lori and Max were well equipped to deal with my particular type of nonsense. And Max has always enjoyed my sense of humor, like when I've had conversations with him and stuff. He gets what I want to do. Interestingly, when I first pitched this book, I talked to a couple of the small presses that I already had relationships with, and they either felt like they didn't want to publish anything this year with Jesus, or they didn't want to publish anything this year with dinosaurs. And I was like, okay, all right, fine, fair enough. So I thought about it for a while. I'm like, Perpetual Motion puts out really cool stuff. I think Max gets me, and they'll understand immediately what I want to do with this. And yeah, sure enough, they jumped on it. They read it, and it was absolutely a match. So I'm lucky in that I have a lot of different relationships with small presses now. That if they ask me to write something that kind of fits in what they publish, I might take a crack at that.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I've got a new manuscript that I'm like, this is bizarre and strange, and who would want this? There's usually between two and three presses I can think of that are like, maybe they want to look.